Hey guys, welcome back to another JavaScript programming tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be explaining the difference between let and var in JavaScript. So both of these are different ways of initializing mutable variables. So for example, variables which you can change. So I'll just briefly talk about the types of variables. So we can have const, and we'll just call this constant variable. And this is a variable which cannot be changed. So if we use the keyword const, as you can see here, then you can't change this. Like if we try and set this equal to 3 and run, you see it's going to give us an error. So that's not going to work. This is a bit weird with arrays and dictionaries, but I'm not going to get into that for now. So then we have the two mutable types. So we can have let, which is changeable, and we'll set this equal to 3, and then we see we can set that equal to 4, no problem here, and it's not giving us any error. And same thing for var. So you might be wondering, when should we be using let and var? So I'll go over the main difference and then talk about some smaller differences as well. So the main difference between let and var is, I'll write this as a comment, so let is block scoped and var is function scoped. Okay, so what this means is, if we're inside a function, let's just say we have a function just like this, and we run it like so. So if we define a variable over here, let variable inside function, and we can just put this, let's just set this equal to 5. So obviously we expect to be able to access this anywhere within the function. Makes sense, of course. We can do this here, and we can even do this within something else. Let's just say a for loop. Obviously expect to be able to access this anywhere, and you can see we've got that here. So that's all fine. But now if we were to define this variable inside this for loop, let's say, so we put it inside here, and of course we can still access it from within the for loop, but if we try and access it out here, well, you see we can't find it because this variable was initialized within this block, so within this for loop block. So that was using let, but if we use var now, you'll see since var is function scoped, it's scoped to this entire function, so we can still access it from outside the function, as you can see we've just done there. Just get rid of this to make it even clearer. And yeah, you can see we're accessing the variable outside of where it was first initialized. So using the idea that it's function scoped, well, obviously we still can't access it from outside this function because it's function scoped, which means it's only accessible within this function. Now this might be useful if you have some sort of idea. So let's just say, this is one really specific example, but let's just say we had an array, or let's just have a number array, and we have it in ascending order. Let's just have a few numbers, so 1, 3, 5, 8 and 9. Those are our numbers, and let's say we have number to insert is 7. So we want to find the index to insert this, right? Well, one way we could do this is we could basically have a counter. So start a new for loop. We'll start the initial counter equal to 0, and we're just going to say, well, the break statement is going to be when it reaches the end of this list. But that's not the main break statement. So basically we want to insert this number so that these are in the correct order, and the way we do that is we start here, check if it can be inserted at the front, and if that can't be true, because if we insert it here then this won't be in order, so we do next and just carry on until we find the right position, which is right there, and it's at the point where the element in front of it is going to be actually more than it. So if we keep on going here, nums, or the counter is now going to be more than it, and at that point that's where we want to stop, if that makes sense. So we basically just want to break this when let's just put that there. Oh, sorry. When nums counter is greater than or equal to, because if this was 7 then we could also just insert it before. But yeah, so nums counter is greater than or equal to that number, and then we're going to break. So here all we're doing is, this is basically insertion sort, if you know what that is. We basically just inserting this in the correct position, and we can repeat this for a bunch of numbers. So we can console.log this counter now, and you'll see we have our number like so. So we need to insert the number 7 at index 4. So so this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. So it's telling us we need to insert it right here. Now this is great, but you'll see if we try and access this from outside, so once we've broken out of this for loop, because once we break it's not going to get incremented anymore, that's the idea. So once we do that, you'll see we can't actually find it anymore because we've assigned this inside this for loop, but the whole point of this for loop was then just to get the right counter to insert this here. So here's how we can fix this. We're going to set this to var, and now you'll see we can access this from outside the for loop. So we might use this for loop to set a variable, in this case the counter itself, and then we're just going to use this counter outside. So there's one good use of var. As many people see var as outdated, but it can still be used if you're using it for the right reason. So now I'm just going to go through a few differences, a few more minor differences, but this is the main difference. Var is going to be scoped to the entire function, but let is only going to be scoped to the block which it was created in. So if we create a number here, we're not going to be able to access it there. See, we can't find it there, but if we set var, of course we still can. So that's the idea. If you see, a block scope is these parentheses, function scope is the entire function, like so. And obviously if you're on the global function, that still counts as a function, it's just the global setting. So a few more differences. Well, if you have a let number or var number equal to something, or you can actually reassign this using the same index, like so. It's not going to cause any problems. You can just log this, and we'll just treat this as if you just reassigned it, like so. If you try and do the exact same thing with let, you'll see it's actually not going to work. We can't declare a let variable twice. So there's one issue. And also one other tiny issue is the way JavaScript variables work is, if you set a variable here, then what happens is it actually reads all the variable declarations before the code has been run. And what happens is, actually I'll do var let first. So if we assign a variable here, then we'd expect not to be able to access it from here, right? We just expect it to throw an error, like so. Obviously this is where we get cannot access uninitialized variable, because we're setting it over here, but we're trying to console.log it before it's even being assigned to. So there's an issue. But if we to use var, well, now it's just going to give us undefined. So it's not really allowing us to use it, but it's also sort of allocating this memory space. So that's just a small difference. And again, this can be useful if you're trying to do this in an asynchronous way, although that is bug prone. But yeah, so you can see this didn't actually throw an error, which means it's easy to deal with in code. You don't have to use try-catch statements, like so. So thanks for watching, and those were a few differences between let and var. So this is the main one which you really need to remember, and I tried to show a function to express that. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in a future tutorial. Bye.